So Total Dramarama is currently one of Cartoon Network's most popular series in its slate for a while, and perhaps one of its most prolific co-productions of all time. Despite its far departure from its originator's format, the series has managed to entertain kids, draw some old fans back, and piss off Twitter for ages and ages, which is the best part, honestly. However, a few days ago, they seemed to be a bit more than justified.
Now today I want to talk about an issue that affects us on a global scale.
Because it seems that Total Dramarama has stepped over the line and it's completely blown up in their face with the advent of a new episode. This clip in particular has been making the rounds. Now this has attracted my attention. Future, more bizarre seasons withstanding, I'd consider myself an ardent fan of the show. And shameless plug, my first big project on this channel was a 20-plus minute piece praising the hell out of it for its quirky ingenuity. I'm not a charitable creature, but I do like to look into these types of things. While I wasn't really looking to one particular side to lean on, watching this episode in real time, I was very much in the camp of how the hell am I gonna defend this? This! But then I sat down to detox from the contact high I got while watching it and thought about the ending more. I realized that this was probably easier to explain than I thought. So today I want to do something I'm not used to and walk you through this episode to lay the facts down. I'm probably not going to change many minds, but at least you're going to come out with all the facts behind this juicy Twitter meme. So buckle up as we barrel into the case of Total Dramarama Season 2, Episode 15, Total Eclipse of the Fart. Before I start, I do want to note what kind of show we're looking at to help contextualize the story beats within. Total Dramarama is a pretty wild, surrealist comedy that can experiment with different types of comedic endeavors to get to its end goal. Its rotating staff of writers, with some of them being alum of the original series, have ditched most, if not all, tenets you know Total Drama for in order to maximize its comedic potential. In layman's terms, everyone's just here for a good time, and these guys are not above a weird ending or totally eclectic twists to get there. Keep that in mind while I relay the plot to you. Anyway, we start off with the kids marveling at Lashana's loose tooth, and while they discuss how to get it out and what to do with tooth fairy money, this happens.
Lashana, your tooth gone! Oh no, I just swallowed my tooth!
After Chef delivers another crushing blow to a child's self-esteem, which is surprisingly common for this show, Duncan suggests she just supplement the tooth with whatever, which sets the plot in motion. Remember this moment.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
The next day, Lashana shows off a suspiciously large box and details her experience with the Tooth Fairy.
I made a fake tooth, identical to the real one. I put it under my pillow and waited for the Tooth Fairy to show up. But the fake tooth didn't work, so I did what I had to do. I kidnapped the Tooth Fairy.
Now, it's worth asking how she got the Tooth Fairy to come if the decoy didn't work. I mean, as we learn later, the victim didn't exactly have the biggest radar for teeth. What do they have to do with Lashana? Remember that one too. After telling the tale, the creature would be unveiled to be a fart fairy named Smelliot. Okay, so now we know this thing wasn't after teeth at all, but after farts. But again, Lashana would seemingly not be able to help with this. This show has a negative continuity and anything is really possible. But even within the context of this show, she seems perhaps to be the least gaseously gifted. Not like I've been paying special attention or anything. The girl just doesn't fart if memory serves. So, how did these two come into contact in the first place? Again, keep that in the back pocket. Anyway, this dude flies around the world powering himself off of the wasted methane in the universe's atmosphere and having fun with farts. This scene brings us up to the montage, which draws so much ire, one that encapsulates how this little goblin siphons off the stink for energy. He says that he gathers flatulence from everyone in the world, but obviously that montage was just shown to emphasize how present he is in the kids, and I guess by proxy, everyone else's lives. Part of why this also turned a lot of heads was due to Smelly's reaction. This is not the face of a man collecting this stuff for a good cause. When he takes up those toots, he seems to be in a euphoric, self-satisfied state of being. Needless to say, his intentions seem less than innocent, and his proclivity towards this activity doesn't outwardly seem like such a vital quest. He says a bit later down the line that,
"The farts you make give me my power."
but what does that really mean? What kind of power does it bestow upon him, and what do farts really matter in the complex scheme of organic life? He seems to be having all types of fun with this up until this chunk of dialogue.
Well, if you're the fart fairy, then what were you doing in my room?
Oh no, she's one of those.
One of what?
A fart denier.
I don't fart.
Called it.
From here, we can extrapolate two things. One, we don't know why Smelly was in Lashana's room last night, perhaps alluding to the collection process being a bit more subconscious than anything. Two, Lashana is a fart denier. This almost seems like an admission of fault off the bat based on how it's phrased and used to set up later events. Now, we were able to get a few details from here, but this scene at large doesn't demystify much. What he uses the farts for or what his purpose is as a fart fairy remains to be seen. What we do know is that while he's here, he's out to show these kids what can be done with the art of fart. Cue another montage. Smelly has fun, the kids experience weirdness, Cody gets pummeled by fart clouds, rinse, wash, repeat. As that's winding down, it's evident that something's wrong with our new visitor.
Aw, we ran out of gas!
I gotta say, I don't feel so good.
Interestingly enough, Lashana claims him to be her fart fairy, while chastising the others for their negligence and insisting that they feed him their farts. Now, Lashana was not part of this montage. She walked off screen in the previous scene and only came back to serve this point in the plot. You could argue that she's only out for her tooth fairy money, but she could also harbor less sinister motives. Either way, she leads the charge in trying to save him, declining to take a turn herself because
I'm the fart director.
the rest of the kids all try squeaking something out to save their favorite fae, which he eagerly sucks up. All their contributions, however, were not enough to quench his need. While Owen works on cooking up his own tactical F-bomb, it seems like something sinister and noxious is brewing outside.
I'm here beneath an unprecedented weather event. This is a fartnado of global proportions. Is the planet and everyone doomed? Perhaps.
As tensions escalate, we go back to that older point we have yet to establish. Lashana was pretty resolute in her statement the first time around. With the escalation of the trouble inside and outside the daycare, her response seems more desperate but adamant. Then Chef calls the military.
Why do you always call the military?
Because the animators already drew him for a previous episode.
This isn't really relevant, I just wanted to highlight this joke. Smelly explains the gas leak outside.
That cloud is all of the world's farts building up. If I don't get up there, that methane gas will block out the sun and the earth will freeze over. It'll be Fartageddon.
Now keep in mind that this dude was not gone for very long, maybe about a half a day trapped in some kid's box at most, but either way, you'd assume that he'd have the capacity to capture at least a bit more of that smog in the air. We'll come back to that. Basically, Smelly has to be in range of the giant stink cloud in order to cut it down to size, but with him so weak, it'll be a bit of a challenge. Even the daycare's signature stink supplier is at odds to propel him up.
Here it comes! Here it comes! Oh! Here it!
I got nothing.
Beth cracks and blames Lashana for this whole escapade, for which she repeats, impassioned,
I do not fart!
In a surprisingly compassionate interaction, the dying magic goblin resigns himself to his early demise. Until the military guys bust in and Lashana makes a big stink about it. Literally.
Wow, Lashana!
So that was just enough of a boost to bring Smelliot back to peak health, and he does his duty diligently. Thus, he leaves Lashana with a $10 note for her trouble and an ominous message.
You're sure you have to go?
I do, but you keep farting, and I'll keep a-coming back.
Also, Owen's backup finally arrived, which, in a cruel twist of irony, basically destroyed the world anyway, which throws out the whole mechanics of building a climax of the story. This is exactly why you leave the world building to the professionals like... Now, we understand the story at play, and arguably why many past that initial montage would be flabbergasted that this ended up on Total Dramarama. This episode itself seems like a more extreme version of the typical fare, but how is it really? The main issue is with intent, as the writer's purpose is supposed to be gathered through the context and the themes at large. Based on the evidence, I can give you two options that should adequately explain what's going on through the mind of that colorful creator. Stick with me here, this might get a bit heady. The first option would be that the writer has crafted a delightfully devious setup, a sinister subversion of epic proportions to cast aspersions upon a typical premise. The episode perhaps works to subvert many premises in one in its own special way. Thinking about how the story progressed is an interesting endeavor. It seems like this tale was not the most evenly paced. The climax snuck up on us without too much foreshadowing as to what would occur. It feels like maybe we didn't get the full story here, but hey, it definitely works to its unwritten advantage. The artistry of how everything was crafted, from the giant fart cloud to the design of said fart fairy in question, was whimsical and yet so realistic. This is its own reality, and it takes on a life of its own through its messaging. Harkening back to that earlier scene where Smelliot was caught, we know that he was not trolling for teeth. What it seems like to me is that essentially they tried to create their own chosen one, believe in yourselves type storyline with Lashana in the most absurd and foul sense. They were essentially pushing the most rank version of the DreamWorks story we would have ever heard.
Be yourself. Be your grotesque, fat-assed, ogre-fied, 50-foot, large-headed self that isn't a teenager and that doesn't end the story all beautiful and a princess and married to the perfect mate.
It's the greatest, most potent pastiche of a few modern story arcs combined into one big adventure. The idea that a tooth fairy is a foreign, alienating concept is directly alluded to.
There's a fairy that pays cash for human teeth? Ugh, that's weird. Come on, I can't be the only one here who thinks that's really messed up.
You cannot take this seriously as a full product. While it's easy to point out the flimsy or weakly established catalyst for the climax, that's less an issue with the narrative and more a matter of the writer's sick and twisted sense of humor, and I love it. Clearly, they have a mastery of subversive storytelling that would make Teen Titans Go drop to its knees in anguish. Fantastic setup. Now, the other far more sinister option of the two, and the ultimate peek behind the curtain is... farts are funny, and this is a comedy. Yeah, believe it or not, I just demystified everything for you. Are you shocked? You really shouldn't be, because this should not be that hard of a conclusion to come to. I've had an incredibly good laugh reading through all the reactions to this episode, but the more I thought about the situation, the more frustrated I got at how skewed the narrative was. I mean, this episode had many screeching at the show for not subtly inserting fetishistic undertones into their work, as if every cartoon writer with a bit more toilet humor to spare is now ghostwritten by Dan Schneider. Look, I know we've very much popularized a few choice go-tos in this community. One of the spiciest being referring back to kinks anytime something mildly weird shows up in a cartoon. Yeah, we get it. Totally Spies was weird. Does it require a 20-minute video? Now, I'm not going to try to brush off anyone's feelings. This episode in question did go above and beyond the typical toilet humor episode, and I shifted between unbelieving laughter and quietly uncomfy vibes. I'm right here with you. This shit was hard to watch, dude. Especially more than once to make this video. You're totally within your right to be grossed out, or upset, or angry that this exists. But to push that narrative that everybody who pushes these types of jokes out is a massive creep is just silly, and it further underpins that type of humor and puts it in a box. Modern cartoons still heavily utilize gross out, even ones that you wouldn't expect.
I can't watch Pink Eye cry. I can't watch him cry.
We've gotten way more rich stories, but that doesn't mean we can't have a disgusting gag here or there. More so if that's the basis of the whole plot. Animation especially has been doing this for decades now. It's a very palatable medium to this kind of comedy. You are not brand new to this. Stop trying to rewrite history. When y'all discovered Mega Babies, you were not crying foul about fetishistic intent. Even the Dramarama guys have taken it to a weird place in the past. Like, they made these kids spend half an episode licking doorknobs and bathroom tiles, which, unsurprisingly, is not in rotation now due to, reasons. I mean, it seems like y'all will shit on anything sometimes, and that flossing incident from a few months back certainly doesn't help your case. I mean, damn, this episode went everywhere. If this were Teen Titans Go, people would be calling for it to get Emmys for every fourth wall break it makes. It'd just be accepted there, so why not here? And don't tell me it's because we expect more from them. A lot of you don't even like Total Dramarama. You don't watch this show. Total Dramarama is a show full of extremes, and one of the most complex of all is how it tries to make you laugh. This episode straddles a very thin border of funny. Those who can't handle it obviously won't like this one very much, but those who can tank its weird overtones will be laughing their asses off for centuries. A long time ago, one of the co-creators of Total Drama did this AMA where someone asked him what his favorite part of working on the show was, and he said this.
My favorite thing about working on the Total Drama series was when Owen won the Season 1 competition, because he didn't give a flying fuck whether he won or lost.
That speaks volumes about their character here, especially considering that Owen is a favorite among the creatives. These writers embody Owen philosophically, and like him, they've made themselves to be one of the most iconic parts of the show because of it. Whether they win or lose, they're here to entertain themselves, and maybe a chunk of that adolescent audience. Call it juvenile and immature if you want, but it's a winning formula. Usually. Again, it's completely understandable to even hate looking at this show afterward, but can we not start a campaign every time a fart joke goes on for too long? You know exactly who you're encouraging when you do that. Damn, y'all really brought me out of retirement for this. The things I do for love. You're the reason why I drink. I'm out.